Welcome to Breaking the Lines Pod. I'm Arland.
My name is Akeem, and this is a Premier League podcast.
All right, man. Match week 18 done and dusted. How you doing? How you feeling?
Yes, sir. Could be better, bro, especially after this weekend, but I am happy to be here, happy to be doing this pod. So I'm happy, bro. It was a good weekend. I would say, we lost and it was kind of bland for me, but it wasn't even really like an exciting match weekend. It felt like to me, it felt kind of a little boring. I don't know if that was the effect of Chelsea, but I watched the games prior to Chelsea as well. And yeah, just even the Newcastle. Man, I don't know about you. How are you feeling?
Yeah, man, I actually kind of agree with you to be honest. It was like a dull Prem weekend. There wasn't much like, crazy talking points or not even talking points, but just things that happened, right? It was more like just the usual, kind of what you expect. I think that's probably, the congested fixtures and whatever, but it was a 2-1 weekend. You know how
Yeah,
our favorite
my
result on the
favorite.
pod is 2-1. There was a bunch of games that were 2-1.
I think we should have gotten some spot on this weekend. I didn't even check that, so I'm
Yeah.
gonna check them as we go right here.
Yeah, well, I guess we'll jump in and we'll start with the Friday game. United at home hosting Newcastle and United winning 1-0, which I don't think either one of us expected. I mean, I'll check the predictions and I think I had this as a
No
draw as
game.
a 2-2 and you had a 2-1 Newcastle. So United kind of putting together a decent result there.
Yeah, just a dull game overall, though. I think Newcastle started the better team, I would say, for the first 25 minutes, and I actually felt a goal coming more from Newcastle's side than United. And then after that, I would say the game kind of evened out. I wouldn't say United took over, but it evened out. And then obviously we had the spectacular closer to halftime, I think, strike from was it Dargu?
The triple captain Patrick Dorgu.
Yeah, triple captain Dargus. Yeah, I think besides that, like I wouldn't say it was more any game of United obviously has been looking better in the past couple weeks, but I wouldn't say it was a game of where, it went either side on too much. I just felt, after that 25 minutes, Newcastle kind of lost their way. They grew into the game and found the goal. And then after that, it was a pretty bland game, like we said about the weekend.
Yeah, I actually agree with you. I think Newcastle started a little bit better and Manchester United slowly grew into it. Towards the end, I think United were kind of hanging on there. It almost felt like I was watching Sunderland play, but I mean that's given, right? You're winning 1-0, trying to protect that.
You gotta do what you gotta do. So I
Yeah,
respect it, man.
yeah. So overall, I think, brilliant 3 points for them against a Newcastle team who lately has started picking up a bit. So I don't think that they can be anything but happy with that result, to be honest, for United and United fans.
Yeah, for United, I think still, like you said, happy for that, and gotta do it. You gotta do it to kind of get the result, especially nowadays. But
Yeah.
for you, Newcastle, I think still a little bit worrying because always conceding goals, which we've been saying. I think, yeah, we'll see how it goes. The table is, as we all say, a couple results change the table so quickly. So it'll be interesting to see. Obviously, now we're going to talk about match week 19
Yeah.
coming up, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see, especially after match week 26, what the table looks like.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that was it for Friday. Just that one Boxing Day fixture, which I think we said we're not really used to, but it kind of made a more interesting weekend or a more full weekend, I should say. First up, Forest hosting City. I think at the City Ground, Forest Stadium. I think it's called the City Ground.
Yeah,
And City with a 2-1 victory. I watched this game from like I want to say 35th minute on, and it was a tighter game than at least I thought it was going to be. I don't know
yeah.
about you.
It was. I felt the same. I mean, we both. I don't know about you. Yeah, we both had Foden and Cap Holland in our team, right? So I think we both felt. I mean, not necessarily that any game will be easy, but at least the score between them would separate, or there would be a couple more goals between them. So I mean, I watched it as well. It was a tight game. Remember, it took City like what until second half to score, and thought that they should have been down to 10 men anyways.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think it
I
was.
saw
I think
that.
it was a tight game, like you said, and actually more closer than we thought. But I guess not so surprising since we've been giving them credit for us, because like we said, Dyche been playing some stuff that has been really impressive, especially since he's returned.
Yeah, yeah, especially at home, right? But Yeah, I agree, man. I think it was an interesting game. I don't know if you saw, but I read today that Forest actually complained to the PGML for some
Oh,
of the
they did.
decisions in that, like an official complaint. So I thought that was funny.
Uh,
Overall, I think City just kind of had a little bit of extra quality on the day. When when Forest tied it up 1-1, they actually had a decent chance a few minutes after that, and it wasn't like
yeah,
a crazy chance, but it was like it was a chance
yeah.
that could have gone their way, right? And it wasn't free flowing City or anything like that, and it took a set piece for them to win the game. Actually, I think it was a corner, kind of got flicked out, and then Ryan Cherokee just back like well, I guess it was near post actually, just volleyed it in, which I think that was one of the complaints that they had too, was the foul on the player at the near post, but I honestly felt like it would have been harsh for them to take away that goal because that foul happened even if you consider it a foul, it happened sort of in that first play of the corner, and the ball didn't even
Hmm.
come anywhere there, so how many times do we see stuff like that happen in the box where, nothing happens? So I could see it given, but I think that, if it was against me, I would be very upset, to be honest.
Yeah, the inconsistency, right? I mean, I kind of understand both sides. I am not here to advocate for anyone like, going against or not necessarily going against the PGM at all, but for the referees or whatever the case might be, you and I both know that we have indifferent thoughts about, especially the way the refs been refing this season. But I think I don't know. I think it makes it interesting that we have a team that comes out and have complaints. We'll have to see where this goes. I mean, it could get dismissed very quickly, or it could go on. So it'll be interesting to see where it goes from here because I feel like if that happens, then it will just obviously open up the floodgates for other things. So let's
Yeah.
see where it goes. But I think it's interesting that someone is challenging it because obviously the inconsistency that we've seen so far in 18 weeks is kind of a bit up and down. So
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. Well, speaking of inconsistency, the next game we're gonna jump into is Arsenal at home to Brighton, and
thank you,
mate, I
Trossard.
honestly don't even know what to say here.
I thought Trossard was going to score. You saw Trossard in my team. I honestly expected like those little binoculars to come out at any point in that game, bro. I'm like watching this man all my days. But like I told you, bro, it could be in poor position or other position, bro. Like you just got to keep winning games, mate. I'll take your position right now and play even worse than you're playing right now. I'm telling you that. So from my perspective, listen, you're winning games. It's not gonna go through 38 games. I'm sure maybe you pick it up second half of the season after a couple players get some break and stuff and maybe play a little bit better. But if you can get the results, we went unbeaten in November, bro. And look at us now. So
Yeah,
just context, you know what I mean? But I think it was a tight game, like you said, obviously. But I mean, for me watching the game, I don't know even before what my prediction was, but I just got up in the morning after watching the City game and I was like, you know what? I think Brighton can actually hurt Arsenal today because, they've always kind of been, especially with the new manager, I think they kind of just carried on with what they've been doing. So I was like, I feel like they could hurt Arsenal today, and then it's all a 2-1 result. I wasn't able to watch the full game entirely, but I was able to catch bits and pieces. But yeah, I felt like Brighton. Yeah, we call them Brighton Unit for every reason. So
yeah. It was an interesting game because I think in the first half, Brighton didn't have a single shot on target. I don't even think there was a single shot registered by Brighton. So zero on target, zero shots in general. And Arsenal were kind of they got that early goal in the 14th minute from Odegaard, which was a good goal. And then you almost felt like maybe the tide is going to turn a little bit and they're going to get a second one. And they pressed for it, but it just didn't come. And I mean, there was some crazy chances missed. Like I mean, you wouldn't believe some of the chances missed. I mean, even, in the second half, Martinelli.
hey, me, you know that meme where you like me when we touch on the Chelsea game. But go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, no, I was just saying there was some insane chances missed. I mean, Martinelli missed a tap in the second half to make it 3-1, which kind of would have relieved the pressure towards the end there a little bit. But again, it was just one of those games. I mean, I think I read something where in the last 3 games, Arsenal have scored like, what is it? 5 goals or something like that, and their expected goals, their XG has been like 11 or 12, so like significantly underperforming Their XG kind of like the opposite of Villa, right? That's way overperforming. So it's interesting to see that. Like, I mean, in this game, their expected goals was 3.08, right? 24 shots, 6 on target, which are, decent numbers, but just not happening. Which, I mean, as long as you're winning games, I don't think, like you said, like it doesn't really matter, right? I don't care if you're winning. I don't care kind of what's going on, right? So it wasn't a terrible performance. I just think that I think from the Arsenal fan perspective, you wanna see kind of a little bit more assurance, right? As kind of just kind of like a helpline, right? Or a lifeline where it's like you don't wanna be, within a goal, coming, 80th minute because this is Premier League, goal can pop up anywhere at for any team. So, I think
Yeah,
it's one of those things, but overall, I don't think it was a bad performance. David Raya had a brilliant, brilliant save in the second half. I mean, I think it was Mintek cut in, and I mean, as soon as he left his foot, I was like, it's going in 100%.
yeah.
Um, and he saved that, which kept the game at 2-1, which I think that was kind of like the game
Need
defining
those
moment.
need those moments.
Yeah, yeah, but overall not bad. I mean, 3 points, Brighton, and this run of these last 4 or 5 games, I think last year I read something where this same fixture last year, Arsenal didn't win a single one of them, so I think when you look at the point differential between last year and this year, it's good, right? It's not bad, and you might not be playing the prettiest, but the points is all that matters, so not too bad.
Yeah, like I said, take the point, especially, in these when the game comes so fast and so quick, I would say, at least.
Yeah,
Uh, Yeah, you got to kind of just take the points. Obviously, you could play a little bit better, like I said, but I think all of those will come with time. You got at least what 19 more match weeks to go, so you have games that you're going to perform well as well, and I'm sure you're going to not perform so well. But as you said, a bit just to touch on the like XG, I think we talk about it a little bit. Like it's very hard sometimes. I know nowadays it's all about stats and what this and that matters, but as we know, football sometimes is very hard to define stats and are it's very hard to kind of like explain with stats at times. It could look really, good or sometimes it could look really bad, but understanding, like you said, from a Villa point of view versus like Arsenal point of view. So I think, yeah, as long as you're getting the 3 points, I know obviously that's easy said than done. If you start to lose games, then everyone starts to look at the stats. But for now, I think the biggest accomplishment or the biggest drive or thing that Arsenal can do is to learn from their previous season, not even just last, but all their previous season. If you can pick up the 3 points, I think that's what's most important.
yeah, absolutely. We'll see what kind of happens. I think this next set of fixtures, which is a replay of the fixtures from a couple weekends ago, is going to be interesting. Obviously, they're playing Villas. It'll be interesting to see kind of how um, they're home this time. Interesting to see how their game plan for that game is. Having lost to them so recently, so I'm excited to kind of see how they come out for that. But moving on from them and moving into a team that I think you and I have kind of sung praises for in the last couple weeks, Brentford, with the biggest victory of the weekend, 4-1 at home to Bournemouth. It
Who
just
saw
seems
that
like,
coming, right?
yeah, I mean, it just seems like they keep strolling in stride, right?
Growing and growing. A perfect hat trick from Shadi as well. And an impressive performance. We've also sang praises for Bournemouth. I think we kind of have to give Brentford a real big credit in this one. Especially for a 4-1 victory. It wasn't even like a close game. So yeah, I think it was a top performance from them. I was able to watch the game as well. I think it was obviously the most entertaining game of the weekend.
Yeah. Um, you had texted me if I had Sade in my team, and
I don't know why I think it's Isidore that I got it mixed up with because I remember
yeah,
you had someone like that in your team. I had to go
yeah.
check because I was like,
You
I
texted me
was
that
like,
and, like, I knew I didn't have him in my team, but I was like, maybe he saw something and I goofed up somehow, you know what I mean? So, like, I was, like, praying, I was opening up the FPL app and I was praying and I was like, "Nah, man." But impressive, I mean, Brentford, kind of moving up the table, getting points. They're sitting in 8th place on 26 points, so, decent return for them, 18 games into the season, won 8, drawn 2, and lost 8. Not bad, right?
yeah. I think, like you said, no, not a bad return at all, considering that you're coming from a set piece management. Well, not that he doesn't know about soccer, but you know what I mean. The
Yeah,
transition, just it's your first year as a first team manager, and you're doing amazing job. What I would consider as an outsider. I don't know what the Brentford fan thinks, but I'm pretty sure most of them would agree. So yeah, 4 goals and against a really, really good team. A really good. I know they've been leaking goals, but also a very good defensive team as
Yeah.
well. So, yeah, an impressive, obviously performance, but just an impressive 19 games so far from Keith Rogers, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Or no, Keith Andrews.
Keith Andrews. Sorry,
Keith Andrews, yeah.
Keith Andrews.
Yeah, and then on Bournemouth's side, I think, their struggles kind of continue, right? Just keep struggling, I think the way they started this season was so good that we didn't necessarily anticipate, like, a decline to happen the way it's happened to them, and not that it's a crazy decline or whatever, but, I don't know when the last time they won a Premier League game was. October 26th was the last time they won a Premier League game at home, 2-0 to Forest, so we're about to enter January in the new year here, and since that game, they have in the Premier League they have 5 losses and 4 draws.
Yeah, after an impressive start, right?
Yeah, so just goes to show you, man. You got to be consistent. Can't be good for 10 games. You got to be good over 30, or
Yeah,
So
and like we were explaining before, it goes to show, like you said, you can't in the Premier League. It's so tight nowadays. So it's like, yeah, you could be worried about performances, but I'm sure a lot of Brentford fan right now would take, some ugly performances if there's a couple wins in there. Yeah, just to go again, like the premise, it's a tough case nowadays. I think I, I don't know. I think it's also lost. It's in terms of like the quality of players, but also because of that, it's made it closer than ever. The top six doesn't really separate themselves anymore. So, like we said, a couple are running up good. If you go on a couple 5, 6 game winning streak, you find yourself up in the top four, close to top two, or you go on a couple games like that, then you can find yourself closer to uh, West Ham and Leeds and those kind of teams. So yeah, it's interesting actually.
yeah. Well, we can keep going here down the list. Next one we had on our predictions was the Burnley Everton game, and a goalless draw at Turf Moor. Burnley pick up another point to go with their point last week. I haven't looked at the table for them, but um, yeah, they're sitting on 12 points, one behind West Ham, who's in 18, and 6 points behind Forest. Again, I don't think it's a bad result for Burnley, right? I think anywhere that they can get a point, being in a relegation battle, I think is not necessarily bad. I don't think it's great for them. Everton is, I think we've kind of seen this year, is a little bit more of a solid team, put up a fight. They're willing to put up a fight. I think besides the game that they lost to Newcastle, which was like a heavy defeat, I think that, every time I've watched them, even if they haven't won, they've put up a good fight. It's interesting to see kind of, that those team drew. I didn't watch this game. And it doesn't, 0-0. It doesn't seem like there was many highlights.
Yeah, this game was dead. Very dead. I had Keane in my team though. The
I saw
ones
that.
The thing is, mate, I don't know what I was thinking after the game week started. Why I had Keane in my team and then I went for Allison. I should have just went with Pickford, which was
Yeah,
crazy. But yeah, I had Keane in my team, and I was able to watch the game. It was most of it, I will say, but it was boring, like you said, not much highlights in the game. And for Burnley, they're right now, I believe, on what, 12 points, and then Everton, not sorry, West Ham is on 13. Forest is 6 points ahead of them on 18. So like we said, it's very tight. Forest lost again on the weekend. They've been looking a lot better, but that's 2 losses. They're just 2 losses away from, if Burnley's able to pick up 2 wins, they're able to get level on points. I mean, the season is long, obviously, so who knows what will happen. Like you said, I think not the worst point for them. Obviously, if they could get a win, it'd be better. I think Everton is in a better position than Burnley at the moment, especially to the start of this season that we've seen so far. So
yeah,
kind of more expected. I think it was more disappointing on Everton's side that they weren't able to get the 3 points. For Burnley, I think they could walk away with a clean sheet and the 1 point, like we said, one more win and they be above West Ham. So I think for them, that would make it, not out of the bottom three, but at least closer to safety than the others.
yeah. Um, Interesting to see kind of what happens there. I'm more interested. I'll be honest with you. I'm more interested to see what happens just above. the bottom 3 just because I don't see that bottom like, I think we said it's not gonna change for a couple weeks, right, at least, right? It might not change all season, just because of that point gap. I think it's a 2-game gap right now between Forest and West Ham. It's not gonna change for a couple weeks. I'm more interested to see what happens just above there, kind of which teams um, pick up points in which teams struggle and kind of find themselves down there because I don't think, Forest is right above West Ham. I don't think um I personally feel like I see Forest moving up a couple spots. So I
Hmm.
think it's gonna be interesting to see kind of what teams drag themselves down there because I mean, obviously Leeds is right there and after the horrendous kind of run of form that we mentioned for Bournemouth, they're down there now too. Um, then you have Newcastle, Brighton, Everton, Spurs, Fulham, and Fulham actually was down there a couple weeks ago. We spoke about this, I think, mentioned that they need to pick up their points, and they moved up to 10th, 13 points ahead of West Ham in 18th. So I think it's gonna be interesting to see kind of how that reshapes because I'm sure that's gonna change a lot in the next couple weeks. That kind of from I'd say maybe 9th, 10th place to 17th. I think those teams are gonna kind of like keep flip flopping between themselves.
Yeah, like you said, I think it's going to be obviously interesting. We've kind of been seeing that as the season goes. We talk about the table all the time. So couple results change the bottom three, and not just the bottom three, but also the top four and in and around Europe. So, yeah, I think as the season goes, we just keep our eye out. For me, obviously now, just want to see kind of like I think it'll be interesting as the season goes, but I feel like I've kind of seen, what the season, it's going to be up and down. So it will be interesting to see where teams finish and like you know what I mean? Like in terms of how happy teams are, because I think it's been a dull season for some teams that could still finish in and about Europe. So, which will be interesting to kind of see how they judge this season or how the season ends for them from there. So,
Yeah,
yeah, keep an eye out, especially for the bottom, in and about the relegation zone there.
yeah. Well, I guess moving on from that game in particular, the Burnley Everton game and Everton's neighbors, noisy neighbors, I guess you could call them, Liverpool, 2-1 victory over Wolves, and I think we both had Liverpool winning this. I had them 2-0 and you had 1-0, and Wolves got a goal somehow. I didn't watch the game, so I don't even know kind of how they managed to get that
They've
goal.
been they've been doing a lot better recently with getting goals. It's just obviously still not the points, but they've been
Yeah.
getting some goals recently. So shout out to them for that.
Yeah. I mean, they didn't concede in the second half at Anfield, which is, I think, kind of a plus, right?
Yeah.
They scored, they won that second half if you want to kind of look at it in halves. And I know Liverpool kind of, we've said Liverpool have struggled this season, but they've moved into the top four with this result. So, I think 2-1 away to Liverpool is not a horrible result for Wolves in terms of confidence, right? For the team. I'm not even gonna say in terms of anything else because I think, this run of losing that
I
they're on
don't
is horrible.
I don't think they can gather anything, not even confidence or anything from that game, bro. Honestly, because like we've said, the table is tight, but I think like I was just kind of explaining, I think it's been like an average season for Liverpool, and not even just Liverpool's. All so many of those teams that we can consider from the top six, right, including my Chelsea, and to find themselves in the top four at the moment. I think even most Liverpool fan will tell you that they are surprised at the moment. Not necessarily surprised. It's kind of shocking to see what they've been through and still able to be in the top four. So I think obviously good for them and they'll take it. Wolves have been looking a lot better in terms of giving a goal threat in the past couple weeks. So I guess not something that I'm totally surprised by and I'm happy for them. I mean, if I was Wolves or a Wolves fan going into this game, I know I'd feel a little bit confidence because of this season Liverpool have been having, not because of their top four team, but as we've seen, they can concede goals. So yeah, I don't think it's something necessarily where Wolves going to get confidence because I think before the game they could feel a bit of confidence, especially playing this Liverpool side. Like we said, it's not they haven't been necessarily themselves this season. So yeah, but good result for them. Obviously, that brings them 3 points clear between them and Chelsea in 29. They're on 32. Yeah, I think obviously with what's been going on, obviously Isak now out for a couple months. I think they'll take that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And as actually going to be a question of mine that I had for you, kind of in relation to that. the Liverpool fans and, them being kind of surprised to find their team where they are in the table after 18 games, given the horrible run of form that they had, right? Do you think that that means, or do you think that that says that the league is poor and a bad league, or do you think that it's just shows that it's more competitive, right? Because I think you could essentially have an argument for both ends, right? I personally lean towards a more competitive league, but what do you think?
I think the quality in the league has dropped a lot tremendously, but I get what you're saying in terms of a more competitive league for sure. I was watching a game. I don't know what it was. I think Chelsea beat like Villa. I forgot what year it was specifically, but like a 6-1 or something game like that. And I was just trying to like, kind of grasp, I guess, the concept of when did teams become so almost like parking the bus so defensively, and now when did they start to strategize how to like almost put 11 players in the box and stuff like that? And because Chelsea won the game comfortably. And that it was like what, '08 somewhere back that early 2000s. So I'm not gonna even try to remember the date, but it just gets to show like I think even back then, you had the big six had better players that separated themselves from the normal team, if that made sense. So you had a Cristiano Ronaldo, you had Drogba, you had Lampard, you had Joe Cole, you had players like that that necessarily now you have a Garnacho and then you also have a Semenyo, and we just talked about Bournemouth, you know what I mean? So I guess that's where my argument would lie more. I think obviously back then, I would say the quality in terms of the big six separated from the rest of the league. You could see it now. I think it makes it more competitive because then you have like Garnacho and then you have a Semenyo. And I mean, depending on who you like there, you know who you would pick. Those are one of those play for a traditional that you would call a big six team, and then the other one plays for, a team that kind of I don't know what they aspire to be, but let's just go with a team that strives to be in the Premier League year in, year out, right? So you have a big six team and a team that strives to be in the Premier League. And a lot of people could argue that the team that strives to be in the Premier League attacker is probably more effective than the big six attacker. So I think that kind of closes the gap, if that makes sense. And that kind of make the league what the league is now. But like I said, I think that the quality, in my opinion, I get the argument of it being more competitive, but I also think the quality of these players have also like declined a bit. It's not much. I had this conversation over the weekend. We don't have many, even if we don't want to go with too many stats, but just to go back to a couple of years, we don't have many Alexis Sanchez or Hazard if we're going to take out the Ronaldos and Messi. But if we're going to go back to Alexis Sanchez and the Hazard days where, you just had a player that could win a game on their own or necessarily just create something out of nothing, basically. Ozil, I remember was one of them, just those kind of players. I'm not even going to mention the Messi and the Neymar. So I'm just talking about regular players that could just put up numbers that would help their team or the big six teams win. We barely get that. I mean, we look at the stats and you could see some of these so-called best players for the big six and their stats is pretty weak. So I guess that's where my argument lies.
Yeah, and I think, you know, I think two things can be true. Um, I agree with you. I think the overall quality of individual players, my opinion at least, is the overall quality of the best players has gone down, and I think that the quality of the average player has gone up. And it's just because I mean,
I agree.
you look at some of these older players that we've seen in the Premier League, even when we kind of grew up, was you had these big teams that played, right? But then you had some of these teams that were it was almost like a dogfight on the pitch, right? Because the quality of the players only afforded them that. So I think that it's kind of, where like the average player was here and the best player was here. It's more like close, the gap is closer
Yeah. So it
and
makes
it's
it difficult.
yeah, it makes it difficult, but I think that that increases the competitiveness too. I mean, we haven't seen any crazy results this year, like a 5-0 or a 6-0 or something like that, right? I'm sure that there's one somewhere, right? But it used to happen way more often. I mean, anytime traditional Big Six would play some of these lower teams, you'd most of the time you'd get that type of result where it was like for example, Liverpool Wolves, the game that we're discussing right now.
Hmm.
If this game happened 10 years ago, given kind of what's happened in the league for Wolves, you would have expected Liverpool to win this game 5-6-0, right?
Like that Villa Chelsea game I was mentioning earlier, kind
Yeah,
of the same
exactly.
thing.
So, you look at it now and it's like Liverpool scraping away a 2-1 victory, which is still 3 points, right? 3 points is 3 points, but it's not, they're not running away with it. And I think that that's also probably why there's no one team in the Premier League this season that's running away with the league either. So I think that kind of, explains everything around the table everywhere. But we can move on from the Liverpool game. It's enough about Liverpool. We'll see kind of how they do next weekend. We can move into the all London affair. West Ham hosting Fulham, and Fulham with a 1-0 victory, which is I didn't watch this game, but
Yeah, I was never watch this game as well either.
I think impressive victory from Fulham. Honestly, I looked at that and I saw that he scored again, and I thought about possibly bringing him in. I remember, I think a few match weeks ago, I was kind of talking down on Fulham and, mentioning that they didn't really have a striker or attacking players or something like that. And I think that you stuck up for Raul Jimenez, and you
Or,
said something, and sure enough, he's scored in the last like three or however many games it is
uh,
straight. So
he's a decent player, bro. You know what's funny about him? He gives me Chicharito vibes.
I can
So
see
like
it.
he's a decent player, bro. You know those decent, good player that can always you can bank on him, kind of like a Welbeck. You know,
Yeah.
just a legend in the league, always dependent, always gonna give you the best, and yeah, a decent, solid player. So I'm happy for him. I wasn't able to watch a game either, but from West Ham point of view, obviously a lot more closer, and I think they've gotten a lot tighter defensively, but still conceding goals.
Yeah.
And not scoring goals also on the other side. So it's a bit difficult for them on that. But yeah, good result for Fulham, right? Some good performances and some good wins or points picked up in the past couple weeks. So I'm sure they're happy in that part there.
Yeah, and I think I mentioned this earlier too, it moves them 13 points clear of West Ham in 18th, so decent separation, right? I think for a while, Fulham was pretty close down there, so they pick up some points and just kind of, separate themselves from the bottom 3, hopefully they don't get dragged down in a relegation fight. I personally would hate to see Fulham go down. I don't know, they're a London team, but they're just one of those teams that,
Yeah,
it's hard to describe, but you kind of have a soft spot for
yeah,
them, right? Or at least I do.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. There's a couple of teams there's just legendary in the league. I kind of miss
yeah,
QPR. I'm not gonna lie to you.
yeah, yeah. I agree with that one too.
They always kind of been like one of those. I'm happy Sunderland is back and they're doing well. Sunderland.
Yeah,
We can talk about Stoke. There's a couple, but yeah, those there's just teams that's just makes the Prem feel right.
yeah, yeah. I
Yeah,
agree.
so
So good victory for Fulham. Disappointing, I think, from West Ham being at home. Losing 1-0. It's a London derby, I guess you could call it. A chance to kind of, pick up some points and get closer to Forest, which they failed to take. So interesting to see kind of, what they're doing. I think you and I have both been kind of critical of West Ham since the start of the season. I think I remember watching them in that Chelsea game and just thinking to myself, I just don't see this team staying up, with the fight that they had in that game. And sure enough, they found themselves kind of in a relegation battle 18 games into the season.
yeah, they're trying. They can they just don't have the squad for it. So they're trying and you can like I said, they look a lot more defensively a lot better, have changed, especially since they lost a couple players, I believe, to AFCON. But also just been trying, you can tell a couple different things. But still a little bit better defensively, but not scoring goals. And I mean, you can see goals in Bowen and Paqueta and a couple other players, but at the moment, just not looking like there's they're creating enough to score anything. So,
Yeah.
it definitely will be something that I think they're going to be in the bottom three. As you said, a long season, still a lot of games to go. So
Yeah.
anything is possible.
Yep, I agree. Well, that kind of takes us into the last game on Saturday, and I'm sure it's one you don't necessarily want to discuss, or you may even want to discuss. You may have a lot to say about it. 2-1 for Villa, Chelsea at home.
Wow.
I'll tell you this. I think I said on the pod, and I had a couple people ask me sort of before the games about the games. This was a game that I was 100% sure I thought Chelsea would win this game. I just thought that it was a must-win game for them, right? In terms of kind of what you discussed and obviously if you lose, you create this gap that you have between yourself and Villa, and given kind of your season and how everything's gone, that along with the fact that I just felt like Villa's been on this run, and I was like, "It's gotta end," and I was like, "Chelsea, home, tighter pitch, Stamford Bridge, in front of their own fans." It's a late kickoff in the Premier League. Not necessarily late, but I mean just late in terms of, like, it's dark, it's Stamford Bridge, and I just expected kind of Chelsea to just take the game to them, and sure enough, they proved me 100% wrong, and I don't know, man, I watched bits and pieces of the game, so I didn't watch the whole game, but there was a point Chelsea, I think, was 1-0 up in the second half, and there was a point where sorry, not West Ham, Aston Villa just seemed like they were slicing through Chelsea's kind of midfield line, and you just found yourself running with 1 or 2 of Chelsea's center defenders towards the goal, and I was just like, "What's going on?" And it happened once, and then it happened twice, and I was like it just seemed like the midfield line of Chelsea just disappeared, right? And I was like, I didn't expect that, you know what I mean? Just because obviously Caicedo's there and I rate him highly as one of those players that sits. Enzo too, right? And so I was just shocked at the ease that Aston Villa were kind of getting into those positions. And I think that their first goal actually came from something like that where they kind of went through pretty easily, and I think Chelsea player actually caught up to Watkins, and then he got fortunate where the ball kind of bounced from the keeper onto him into the goal. But how the chance was created is just kind of, I think it was way too easy for them to get that opportunity.
Wow, yeah, like where do I start? Yeah, I'm glad you bring up all those points because, there's just lots of different obvious areas that I could touch on being a Chelsea fan that we could talk about. But to touch on the last point that you left on, I'm gonna touch on that and kind of like answer, I guess, going backward. But I'm looking right now, as soon as you said that, what's funny is I went in my phone, as you could see, just to find a text, see if I can show it on the screen here. But me and my friends have a group chat, three of us Chelsea, four of us Chelsea for boys. And it's funny because watching the first half, I don't think on one of the points that you said where they let you down, I don't think they let you down in terms of their playing style and the way they played. They just couldn't finish the game at all. Or it's funny that the goal that even came accidentally, and the way these guys celebrated was crazy to me. I was telling my friends over the weekend, it's like it's an accidental goal and you're in the corner laughing, whatever, after having all that stats. But just to touch back on the point that you said, how the midfield line or whatever just looked non-existent. I literally 1-1, and not 1-1, 1-0. Early start in the second half. I forgot what specific minute, but what I said to my friends was, I don't know if you could see on the screen, it said, "We're pressing too high. We're pressing too high. They're playing right through us."
Yeah,
And I felt like it was a game, obviously, at two halves, right? And I'm going to touch on the football point of view of it right now. And if I'm just going to focus on the second half and not necessarily the first half, because I think the first half thought was obviously different. But I think if you're winning the game, and obviously you've been the better team so far, first 45, like just like you said about Arsenal, Villa had zero shot, zero expected goals, zero everything in the first half. It was complete domination from Chelsea in the first half, besides scoring goals. You have to understand that, 90 minutes, you just have to be smart about the way you play. And I felt like even in the second half, obviously they changed. They brought Watkins on, and Watkins is different than Marlon. Watkins is more of a player that runs in behind and he tries to get those passes. And I think Villa's seen that. We were pressing at one point, I believe Joel Pedro was playing as a striker, but Joel Pedro and Palmer, I believe, even went to press the goalkeeper. And for me, I feel like you're winning 1-0. You know what I mean? Yeah, I know you're home and
yeah,
you want to show that you're the better team or whatever, but you don't need to have your striker or your number 10 person, the goalkeeper, in my opinion, there when you're winning 1-0. If you're losing or the game is 0-0 and you're trying to get something out of the game, I can understand that. But just by pressing with the number 10 or the striker, I think what that allowed was what you saw was Villa was just playing through balls as the first. And as soon as we press it, allowed if Pedro is going, then Palmer has to go. And then that brings Enzo into the press and it brings Caicedo stepping up higher. And like you said, a couple of those, I think Watkins had it. They defended it well first, but Watkins had a couple his first chance where, they just played really through so easy. I think for Villa, they realized how easy it was just by playing that short pass first and then playing in behind. So I think that's coaching, honestly. You know what I mean? That could be fixed with coaching and stuff like that. But yeah, I think you just have to see that, not necessarily coaching, but even as a team, right? You just have to be a bit more mature, understand that you're winning the game. You don't need to go, I think, especially in the first 15 minutes of the second half, pressing so high, you kind of could control the game and allow them to come onto you and find the spaces in behind when the spaces appear. I mean, I don't know. Like you said, you touch on a lot of different points. We can touch on the quality of players in the Premier League. I think with not just that game, because for me, I'm not necessarily upset. I've said my thoughts, I believe, last week before what if we had lost the game. If we had competent wingers, we would have been obviously a lot better. But it just goes back to that point. I think ultimately what this goes back to is a point that we made earlier in terms of at these top six teams, you're playing against the players don't really separate themselves much anymore. So as we can see, a completely total domination from them, and their goal for Chelsea came from, or our goal came from an accident. So it almost just sums up everything that's going on at Chelsea at the moment. Like, you know, all the money spent, everything, and they still, the goal that they scored, even in the game that they were dominated, came from almost off someone's shin or their calf, you would say, accidentally ricocheted into the goal, and they were celebrating as if they won the World Cup. So yeah, I think that just kind of sums the team up at the moment. Obviously, the start of the season, there was high hopes, but I think as the season goes by, kind of just opened our eyes up and show us what it really is. And yeah, I don't think any fans, I know there was a lot of upset people that were upset and stuff, but honestly, for me, from the Leeds game, like I said to you time in and time out about Arsenal winning, I think from the Leeds game, I don't care necessarily about the performance. I'm not saying I don't, but if we're going to improve on what we're supposed to, takeover happened in 2022. We've been buying some of these players since then. You have to kind of show a sense of maturity at this time now. And even, I don't know if you're able to watch the game, but even like an Enzo getting booked, you know, in the game because he's losing and starting to lose his temper. I just think it kind of sums the team up at the moment. Yeah, I don't. It's not something that's surprising to me because from the leads, even to other results that we've had throughout the season, you're kind of just seeing that the team lacks maturity, and that's what happens when you get youngster. We wanted to obviously be patient, and I was patient, like I think most fans, but I think it's at a point now where we all have to just agree that it's the project has kind of been like a waste.
Yeah, I think it's tough, right? I think it's tough because I see a lot of stuff online, and there was a lot of what you had mentioned in terms of people starting to question the ownership and the project after this result. And obviously, like some of it's kind of like poking fun and stuff. But I think there's a layer of truth to it from a neutral point of view, right? And I'd say I'm neutral to a certain extent, right? Obviously, because obviously I'm an Arsenal fan, and I don't want any team to do better than Arsenal, but at the same time, I think, I'm also a fan of the Premier League, and the Premier League, when you're a fan of the Premier League in general, you kind of have this nostalgia for the league in the early 2000s and 2010s and, whatever. And the league was, kind of just plainly dominated by United and Chelsea. And I think United is a whole different story, which, we're not even going to jump into, but from Chelsea's perspective, it's interesting because in my youth, Chelsea bounced around managers, but every manager that came in was an absolute stone cold winner. I mean, even caretaker managers came in and they won. And I think, obviously you kind of have to attribute that to the ownership and the expectations that the ownership put on the team. And I think we've gotten into this kind of, I want to say, games gone soft, where it's like everyone kind of is on the same page and thinks the same way, where it's like you need time, you need time. But if you go back to like I said, some of those Chelsea managers, I mean, Di Matteo came in and won the Champions League as interim manager, right? What time did he need, right? Even Tuchel won the Champions League, right? With arguably a team that shouldn't have won it on paper, right? When you compare it to the other European teams at the time. I think for me at least, what's changed the most from what I can see is the recruitment policies. I mean, I look back to, Chelsea came in and signed Diego Costa, Cesc Fabregas, some of these players that were winners, right? That you knew were players, right? It's not like we don't need time for them to develop. They had money. they sign those players, and those players come in and straight away they make a difference, right? David Luiz, Oscar, Ramirez, all these type of players, Maludas, these are players that came in and made a difference right away. And in that team, you look at the recruitment that they did over the summer, and it just doesn't make sense to me. It didn't make sense to me in the summer either, but I thought maybe I'm not seeing something like Delap didn't make sense to me if you'd already signed Joe Pedro because I'm like, and maybe it's not the same profile, but it's the same stage, right? You don't want two developing strikers. If you sign somebody, in my opinion, if you have a developing striker, you want a striker that's well established and is going to score you 20, 25 goals in the season, right? And there might have not been anything in the market, but at least a little bit, somebody that's a little bit more experienced than the Lap, for example, right? Like Garnacho too. I watched a lot of Garnacho at Man United, and my biggest problem with Garnacho was he gets stuck at times in his dribbles. It's almost like everything has to go right for him to create an opportunity, whether that's the bag and assist or a shot on goal. I think he gets stuck in front of defenders at times. Pedro Neto, I thought was a good signing. Um, but, I look at kind of, they let Madueke go, and Madueke has performed well at Arsenal. And I will say, I think he had good games at Chelsea, but overall, I don't think that, I wouldn't have looked at Madueke at Chelsea. And I think that you and I even discussed this. A lot of fans were questioning why Arsenal signed him because of the lack of consistency in his performances at Chelsea. I think that team, if you would have brought in some experienced players, like bring in a Michael Olise on the wing, or test the waters at Madrid with, Vinny or Rodrigo, right? Bring in somebody that's experienced that is going to come in and they're not going to have this, loss of
Pump the
temperament.
brakes on those players, bro.
But like that's what I'm used to Chelsea doing, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the Chelsea that you and I grew up with, they wouldn't have had an issue with putting in, let's say, £100 million offer for Vinny over the summer. They wouldn't have had an issue doing that, right?
It's just a different dynamic now, a different setup, a different everything. And I'm glad that you touched on it. I think managers have come in and need less time, but I think I'm glad of the maturity and the level I'm able to watch a game. I do think, like I've explained in what we said about the second half with Chelsea, that management wise, we could have done a lot different in terms of in the game and for the 90 minutes there. I do agree, but I think most of our problems lie a lot deeper than our manager, to be honest. For the first time since the Clare League has taken over, it's the first time we found a manager that I think most of the fan base, I still back him until absolutely everything. But most of the fan base supports. And, obviously, like every manager does questionable things. He's no stranger to that, and I will question him. I'm sure I have questioned him and I will continue to do so, I'm sure. But since they've taken over, I think it's a manager that we've been the happiest with the most. But like you said, I think our problem lays deeper than just management. I think recruitment wise, the money that we've spent, bring in certain players, we can kind of pick out like kind of different positions for the team and whatever and talk about it. But I think ultimately, like you said, it's just too many average players that we lost the money on that. It just doesn't make any sense, right? Like when you look on the Gittins, like you said, we paid 60 plus, I believe, for Gittins. And Semenyo is gonna go, I don't know, whenever the January transfer window opens to Man City, and that's going to be a 60 million. I mean, you watch it getting seen, watch it Semenyo, and it's obviously I know it's a clause that's in his contract now, but it just shows right that it's crazy. Some of the decisions that we're making in terms of the recruitment and stuff. We watch it a lot now, and I mean for us Chelsea fans, I'll be honest, a lot of us after the two red cards for Jackson weren't happy with Jackson and kind of was understanding of if we had let him go because of he just seemed to not be to lack discipline, what we would say. But I mean, to even like to say that statement and to kind of review the first 19 game, I don't know what the stats are, but I can only imagine that we're definitely in the top five, if not top three, with the most, yellow carded team in the Premier League. So it just showed, and also red cards. Obviously, we've had seven, I believe, so far. So, yeah, I think the problem lies a lot deeper than just management. Obviously, there's problem with management as well, but the problem starts up top and it filters all the way down. It's not the same Chelsea anymore. We're getting average players. And to fix this, as we know, you and I both know they're not going to go and sign a world-class player to help these players. They're going to get another 17-year-old or 18-year-old to come in. I think obviously, man, like we just have to be realistic. And for me, I've been realistic for a very long time now. I've wanted to kind of, my biggest problem is not necessarily that we have to win or anything. Give us something to back on the you feel. And I just honestly, this season, bro, I can't say the quality has been absolutely poor, as we've said. And to find ourselves behind Man United, not United, sorry, Liverpool, stuck on points at United after spending almost 2 billion, I don't see how anyone in their rightful mind or whatever could continue to support what the sporting director and the club owners are trying to do. So yeah, I don't know.
Well,
We'll
I
see
think
where it
that's
goes.
yeah, I think that's interesting because I think, people are starting to question that part of it, right? And not necessarily the management, because I think in the past couple managers, it's gone straight to the management. But I think like you're saying in this one, I think the majority of Chelsea fans are not going to management right now. I think that they believe in this manager. They're going further up the chain. So I think it's finally interesting to see some pressure being put on that part of it to see if anything will change. But we'll see. Like you said, I mean, we'll see how it goes. We'll see kind of how Chelsea's season kind of, wraps up from here towards the end. And I think that that kind of will tell a lot in terms of what their fans, I should say, will demand and will say, right, at the end of the season. I don't, like you said, and I don't see the manager being the biggest problem. I think that from my perspective, there are some inexperiences there, but what I think is really promising is he finds out those mistakes from what I've seen and he's able to correct them. So in a manager, I think that if you have that, you have the quality of possibly being great. So I don't think management's the issue. I think it's a lot better than the last couple managers that Chelsea had, without a doubt, 100%. So we'll see. We'll see kind of how they move on from here. And that kind of wraps up Saturday for us. I know we kind of went on a tangent, but I guess needed, right? We'll see. Two games on Sunday: Sunderland Leeds, Palace Spurs.
Flat
I watched a
games.
Yeah, I watched a bit of Sunderland Leeds. Somehow I predicted this correct. No idea how. But I thought it was it was a typical Sunderland game this season, in my opinion.
Hey, they're not going to change, mate. You got to give them the
Yeah,
respect. Going to make it tight for
yeah,
you. It's going to be very difficult to score against them. Physicality. But I feel when we also, like I said, lost earlier to Leeds this month, but I even just been watching Leeds. They've been also kind of out taking a page, I would say, probably out of Sunderland's book. So it obviously ended as it should. I think I don't know what my prediction was, but I think after looking at this, I think that's a perfect result for both teams, honestly. One
yeah,
goal each,
absolutely.
it could be 0-0. They could have had the Burnley Everton, but I think one goal each just explains them because they do provide a goal attacking threat. They always, both of them do, and they make it very difficult for you to score. So 1-1, I think is a great result. I wasn't able to catch a game. I was able to catch the goals. I did, however, I sold Calvert Lewin that week. I had him. He did well for me, so I'm not even upset. But I sold him
Yeah,
for Ekitike, so I'll take it there. I had a good assist from Ekitike.
yeah. Um, and I think I did see Leeds' goal actually, and it kind of came out of nowhere at the start of the second half, if I'm not mistaken. Um,
Nice little cross.
Yeah, yeah, it was just I think it was literally, like, right after the second half started, it kind of just, the play just developed and he put the ball in the back of the net, and then after that, it's kind of I don't wanna say dull game, but it was, like, the same thing, like, it was like a stalemate, like, kinda one team attacking, and, um, Sunderland just have this kind of amazing way of just putting these players in front of the goal and not allowing you to get a shot on goal. Um,
Well, you
and I
see
don't
those
even
defenders, bro? You see how big they are? What do you mean you don't know what way?
like, I don't get it, man, because it's like, you watch other teams do this and they get picked apart, but Sunderland just do this so well. I mean, and I've watched actually quite a bit of Sunderland this season. Defensively, they're just so well organized, and like you said, they carry that attacking threat too, right on the counter. So I don't know, man. I'm impressed by them, to be honest. I'm impressed that they're able to come in from the championship and be able to kind of go toe to toe with some of these teams and play their own kind of way of playing and come out and get results. And they're sitting on 20, what is it, 26 points or something like that, 28 points, a point behind Chelsea and United.
So,
So props to them, credit to them.
yeah, bro.
Um, and then I guess we could wrap it up with Spurs too. We could throw Spurs in there. 1-0 victory away to Palace. I didn't watch this game, but I heard that Richarlison scored another goal and took his shirt off. Is that correct?
There's no way. I wasn't able to watch this game either, bro, but that is so funny. I have to go check that out again. It
I don't
definitely
know
obviously was disallowed.
I don't know if he took his shirt off, but, I was seeing stuff on social media where they were like, Richarlison shouldn't celebrate a goal until he goes home and watches the game back on match day.
Yeah, that is so funny. I saw their goal though from who was it, Archie Gray?
Yeah,
Yeah, I saw the goal that the second header pretty much just a like tap in, but it was a good goal, not like a tap in. He was just right in front of goal. I mean, like a good
yeah.
header, but I mean, obviously a good result for them. I saw the one thing I saw while this game was going on, 'cause I wasn't able to catch it live, but I was checking up on like fantasy and I saw that Van de Ven after finally selling that guy got you 8 points, bro. You know how many weeks of zero that brother has went through? And
I know.
I was, I was like, wow. So that was interesting because I had reached the day before he obviously had the assist, but a yellow card and obviously conceding 2 goals kind of just took his points down. So
Did he get 8 points? I thought he got 11 points.
yeah, yeah. At the time I was
Yeah.
checking, it was I
Yeah,
knew he
yeah,
was
yeah, yeah.
probably gonna get yeah, I knew he probably was gonna get extra points. But at the time I was checking, I was like, wow,
Yeah.
this guy's had some one and zeros for the past couple weeks, and now he wants to just have a great performance, bro. After I sold him,
I checked, I think on Saturday, at the end of Saturday, I think I had like 24 points total on fantasy, and
yeah,
I
I
was
saw
like, I
that.
don't think I'm gonna. I literally, I looked at who I had left to play, and Van de Ven was one of them, and I was like, I'm not gonna
Yeah,
break 30 points, bro. I was like, I'm not hitting it, you know. And I checked after the Spurs game, and somehow miraculously, I got up to 40 points, which was a horrible,
yeah.
horrible week. But hey,
He's keep you in the
I
mix.
yeah, whatever.
Keep you in the mix. No, I was gonna say all the stuff restarts now, so another fresh 19 weeks to go again with all your new stuff.
Yeah, yeah. You're gonna have to play that triple captain a little bit more strategically this time.
Hey, it happens though. You can't really say that you did like the Dargo one where that guy triple captain him last week. Like that wasn't what you did. You did a one that he just went blank.
I might have to try and pull one of those Dorgu ones though. You know what I mean? Just like give it to like a
Those
defender
are
or
the
a
best one
goalkeeper.
because then you got to think like nobody else is doing it, so you're not getting the same points. You know, like you got
Yeah,
to think about that. So those are the best ones. You can captain
yeah,
Holland, but everybody has Holland, so you both are captain, and that kind of equals the
yeah,
points out if that makes sense.
yep. All right. Well, I guess that kind of rounds off the match week. Who before we jump into predictions, who are we giving the
Brentford for sure, man. Team of the
Brentford? I
week.
agree. I think that's correct.
The best performance. Everybody else was I would even I don't know. Obviously not everyone else singly, but I think most of the other games are kind of bland. So Brentford for sure. And
Yeah,
we can go
I agree.
into the predictions.
Yeah, let's do it. Burnley, Newcastle. These are the replays of match week 15. Obviously, just flip home and away. So, Burnley, Newcastle, match week 15. Let's see what we have. This game was a 2-1 victory for Newcastle. Burnley's home this time. What are you thinking?
I'm gonna go 1-0 Newcastle.
I
Straight
like that.
shoot.
I like that. We'll go 2-1 Castle again. There's that 2-1. First match week, and it's back. Next up,
Davis Foreman.
Chelsea. Yeah, Chelsea, Bournemouth. Chelsea's at home this time. 0-0 last time. What are we thinking?
1-1 I'm going. Chelsea
You're
Bournemouth
going
1-1.
1-1? I'm gonna give it to Chelsea. I think Chelsea bounced back. 2-0 for Chelsea for me. Forest, Everton. Uh, I don't think it'll be a 3-0 for Everton this time. Forest home.
No, no, no,
I
I
think
don't
they'll.
think so. I think this one's gonna be closer, and I think Forest actually. I'm gonna go to Forest win on this one. Actually, you never get the result what I'm going for.
I think you're gonna do the same thing I'm gonna do. 2-1 Forest.
You never guess the result, bro. What I'm going for in this
I agree. I'm putting 2-1 down for me and you. Lock it in.
one. West Ham Brighton. I think Brighton's winning
West
this.
Ham,
I'm calling
Brighton. West Ham's home this time. It was 1-1 at the Amex. I want to give it to Brighton. I just don't know what the scoreline to go with, to be honest.
I'm gonna let me go. I think let me go 3-1. 3-1
Brighton?
Brighton Munich.
All
Give
right.
them a free goal. West Ham's been poor defensively, obviously tighter. Like you said, those games, I think they tend to open up a little bit more.
Yeah, I agree.
So,
I can see that. I'm going to go 2-1 Brighton, to your surprise.
sir,
Arsenal Villa is a tough one.
at the
This is
Emirates,
going
I
to be
don't
a
think it would be
very,
so
very
tough.
tough game. I'm actually very
I think
excited to watch this. I'm very excited to watch this game.
Arsenal will obviously, I think, handle it a bit better. And I think they are just a little bit more clinical, obviously, not a little bit more, but they're more clinical and better defensive, smarter. So I think they're gonna obviously lost the game 2-1 the last time, but I think it will be a different game this time, especially being at the end. So I'm gonna go 3-1 or 3-0. Let me go 3-0 or so. I watched the first half. I
Uh,
think obviously give it to Villa and they've been on a tremendous run. But I think
yeah,
any team with like a Man City or an Arsenal playing that first half with Chelsea would have been 2-3-0 for them. Obviously the contrast different there. But yeah, I think Arsenal will be all right in the from the 2-1 loss. They haven't lost most games, so that match week 15
yeah.
will be fresh in their mind.
I'm gonna give it 2-1 to Arsenal, but I could see it being a draw. I could see it being the
So
same type of game it was at Villa Park, kind of, stalemate back and forth and just, some silly slip ups. I could see it.
I think the Emirates will help you. It's different when you're at the
Yeah,
Emirates,
yeah. I
Emirates
think that
will
should
help
help a
you.
little
So
bit. Next up, the free hit. United playing their
uh,
free hit on match week 19, it looks like again. I don't think it'll be 4-1, I'll tell you that. I know United's home, but I think it'll be a little bit tighter of a game. I'm gonna go 1-0 United.
good call, good call. Gonna go 2-0 United.
Palace Fulham. This is a tough, tough game. Palace on a little bit of a.
Wait, why is there no games on Wednesday? I'm just looking at this. Why they
I think
break?
it's because
They,
it's the 31st. It's like New Year's Eve, so they're doing the games and they're letting the players have an
what?
off night coming into
What do you
20.
mean?
Listen, I think this is another one
Hey,
that
I'm not arguing. I'm not arguing. I'm just trying to make it make sense. Like, why would you have a player play 2 days and then I have 2 days later? Like, I don't know,
listen.
whatever.
I think this is another one that if Jurgen Klopp was around, he would have definitely
Yeah, you
given.
wanna this season, I think I heard something that they're gonna go back. I heard it's just this season or something's happening this season or they did. Is it? I don't know if you've heard too much. I'm gonna have to do some research or we can talk a bit about it next week. But I heard
Yeah,
I guess it's something this season with the schedule. So I guess we just get through it because for me, I don't understand. Like, yeah, give them New Year's. I'm not arguing about giving them time off. I'm just the gap of why you have a Tuesday and then Wednesday nothing and then Thursday. Like that just doesn't make try to put them, you know what I mean? Like it doesn't make we'll go with
I
them.
fully back you. I don't see why we have to play on Saturday and play Tuesday, and then there's teams that get an extra 2 days rest and play Thursday. I think that that's crazy when you didn't
Yeah,
need
it
to do
just
it.
you don't yeah, yeah, that's the point. Like it just it's not even like they need to do it. Whatever,
Yeah,
man. They didn't give
yeah,
us Boxing Day fixtures. Like we could compromise and I get it, but it's just not making any sense.
yeah. No, I agree with
So
you.
we go Palace, Fulham. I'm gonna go Palace kinda has to bounce back. They haven't been doing so well. I'm gonna go 1-1 this game, honestly.
I'm gonna shock you with this because we've had one of these results each of the last 2 weeks. I'm going for a 0-0.
Okay. I don't think that's bad.
Liverpool leads 3-3 Ellen Road, Anfield. You think this will be a different story?
Yeah, I think this will be a different story, but I could still see Leeds making it difficult for Liverpool. And it's a tough one to call, man. Could still see Leeds just being, like I said, physical, making it difficult for Liverpool. I'm gonna go our favorite result, unfortunately, 2-1. See, that's the one thing I could see in this game. But
I'm gonna go one more than you. I'm gonna go 3-1. Brentford Spurs. This is a interesting one to call. Spurs beat Brentford 2-0 last time. I think it's gonna be a little bit more difficult for them this time around. I wanna go 2-0 Brentford.
yeah, I think Spurs, however, have been better away from home. I think it's at home where they struggle the most because teams tend to come out a little bit more at them away from home. So I'm gonna go. It's gonna be interesting. I go 1-1.
All right. I like that. And the last game of the match week on
This is a
January
tough one for
1st.
City.
Yeah, I think it is gonna be a tough one for City. Sunderland being home are a little bit more difficult.
Yeah, that's why I think it's tough. If it was City at home, it would have been. But I think being
Yeah.
away at Sunderland is gonna make it. That ground is. I'm gonna go. This is. I could see.
City won 3-0 when they were home. I think this was the Erling Haaland show, if I'm not mistaken.
I'm gonna
No, actually,
go.
this was not.
I'm actually gonna go for a shock and go 2-1 Sunderland.
Whoa.
Yeah, I think Sunderland will make it difficult for City.
Okay. I'm gonna go 2-1 City all the way around. Stick with the 2-1, just flip it.
But
I think City will find a way. I think they have to, especially after kind of struggling against Forest. I think Pep is going to drill them on these couple days that they have off. It is right after New Year's, so we'll see. We'll see which one of those players is a party animal. Grealish is not at City anymore, so we don't
he
have
got
that
the
to
day
rely
off.
on. All
So
right, well, that kind
yeah,
of rounds up the predictions. Excited. This is match week 19, so this officially marks midway. Half the games will be played after this. Um,
it's
we'll see how it's looking.
hopefully the games are fun. I'm able to watch most of the games tomorrow. Have both
Yeah,
TVs on.
I'm home as well. I'll have kind of everything going. I'll probably start watching Chelsea Bournemouth up until halftime, and then take over with the Arsenal game.
So yeah, that's my
That's probably my plan for tomorrow, and then the first we have
hopeful.
two different time slots. I'll probably watch the Liverpool game and maybe the City game. We'll see. I don't like watching City though.
Yeah, I'm gonna see how I'll kind of switch through to kind of see what I want. But my plan was kind of to obviously watch a Chelsea one a little bit and then kind of flip the screen to see which of the other ones are more entertaining. So keep my eyes out to kind of see which ones are going good and have two
All right,
TVs.
my brother.
Yeah, thanks for
That's
joining
it.
us this week.
Yep. We'll see you. We'll see you in a few days. Actually, we have a pretty quick turnaround between these fixtures and the next ones. We'll see if we can
Yes, sir.
get something recorded in between the first and the third. All right, brother. Take care.
Yep.
Thanks,
Thanks
guys.
for joining us this week.